All right, what's up, everybody? This is Matthew Mason. I am the proud host of the Hot Conversations with School Leaders podcast. I'm excited for today because I have with me someone I could truly say to me is a brother. I met him when we came down to Lynchburg City. First, I didn't know him that well because I was middle school principal. He was elementary principal at that time. So anybody in education knows it's almost like the kids in school. It's like these kids hang with these kids hang with these kids. Like the middle school principal song, then you had the high school principals who hung at elementary. But I always knew who Dani Rule, and this is the weird thing. So I think this is cool to say. I always knew who Dani was. Because I was like, oh, like all of us who are principals right now are not black. Like it's the Dani. Like I know who Dani is. And so eventually, though, we got to know each other because he invited me to church. I've never told him this. But that is something that I fully appreciate and love because I am now part of Ramp Churches International, and I'm like, I will never go anywhere else. Even when we moved back to Henrico County, we were like, we got to find a church that's affiliated with Ramp. So Dani is an incredibly loving husband, an incredibly loving father. He is a principal. He's a high school principal right now, but he's actually been at all three levels. He has been at the high school, he's been at the middle and the elementary. And I think he has a ton to say about a lot of different things. So I want to welcome Dr. Dani Rule.
Woo! Hey, thanks, Matt. And thanks for having me on the podcast. Pretty sweet to see visions come to manifestation, and your words are kind. When Matt came to Lynchburg City, it was elementary. Like you said, like elementary principals are really tight. And then secondary, I know nothing about the secondary life. It was fun to see. In fact, another one of our good friends, Dr. Brown, kind of connected us too. I think one of my first conversations and meetings,
yep.
one of our first connections was at Blaze Pizza.
It was,
and I was coming on board because I was jumping from elementary to middle school when Dr. Brown told us he had alpha gal, because he got the call when we were sitting at Blaze Pizza that he had alpha gal. For those not from the East Coast or the South, wherever it originates, because it's not really in Ohio, but I bust out laughing, and I feel bad, Dr. Brown. So I publicly apologize to Dr. Brown for laughing about his alpha gal.
Which is funny. So this is what's really cool. And I think most people notice when you say someone's like a brother or sister, you know you're a brother or sister when like something in some ways devastating can happen in your life and your friends like laugh at it. And then you have to laugh at it because it's just like, yeah. That's why. So that is true. I forgot all about that. Actually, I remember that Blaze Pizza.
And meanwhile, we're eating our pepperoni pizza.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, man.
Yep. And look, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't feel bad about it at all. He said it. I was like, hey, man, like, I don't know what you want us to do. Like, we gonna eat.
That's right. Because we positive mindset. You got this, guy.
You got this. You can. God gonna get you through. Like,
that's right.
I'm gonna eat this pizza.
Right. So, and actually, the first time you came to the Ramp was when Lecrae was coming to speak apologetics, and I knew Matt was much more in tune with the truth.
It was the truth.
The truth.
It was the truth. Yep.
Because the truth was part of cross movement back in the day, right?
He was. Yep.
And so we had connected that way, and then for me too, I want colleagues to, hear about it here. But my faith leads me in education. I don't know how you do it without a faith and, at a young age, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But how do you with the challenges and everything facing education, that's the motivator right there. That's the motivator right there. So I needed Matt to come on board, and I knew he was a man of faith and needed him to lock arms with me, so to speak, in our place of worship too. So thankful for that.
We'll dive into that a little bit because I think something that has been, is not a testimony, but something I think you are skilled at is, I think you're a connector, right? Like, so when at any place, whether that's via church or in the way we know each other via education, like I always feel like Dani is somebody who almost like, I heard somebody talk about the difference between maybe LeBron James and Michael Jordan, right? And it wasn't a negative on either one, but they were like, oh, maybe they're talking about LeBron James or Carmelo Anthony. And we talk about sports a lot too, guys. So if you are listening, this is what we do too. They were like with Carmelo Anthony, when the ball would go to Carmelo was like that's where it stopped, right? Like, so it wasn't like the ball would keep flowing. It would get to him, and then it's time to score, right, at that point. Whereas with LeBron, they were like, LeBron is more like a conduit, right? Like, the ball can get to him, but the ball is going to get to somebody else, or if it's him, that's what I like in Dr. Rule or Danny, you'll hear me say Danny as that, right? Like, he's going to connect you with different individuals. Like, if he's gotten to know you, he feels like you bring something to the table. And even if you don't, you just need some help. Like, Danny's going to connect you with somebody who can help you or somebody who could use your help. And it just seems like he does that naturally. Like, I've never seen him not do that. So,
Yeah. Appreciate. Maybe that's because I know other people are smarter than me. I need to surround yourself with
he
good
will say
people.
that as well. Yep, he will do that. We're jumping into it. Tell them a little bit about yourself, because I think you got a very just interesting background in life and what has brought you to where you are now.
Sure. So personally, Buckeyes, born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, 6 out of 7 kids. Blessed to, like I said, come to know Jesus as my Savior at a young age. Have amazing brothers and sisters that are passionate about what they do, really push to impact others. Amazing mom and dad that led us to instill those values in us. Married my beautiful bride, Nicole, as she
Who is an
is
incredible singer, by the way.
incredible singer
She's
and
incredible singer
teacher and
and
teacher.
businesswoman. So we got all of it.
So she's gifted. So, and she's an incredible push. She pushes me. In fact, I don't know if I told you this, like my push to be more than a teacher was driven, I think, by Nicole pushing me to pursue my master's in education before we were married. I'm trying to think of how that timeline worked out back then, but we have 4 amazing kids, Tristan, Camden, Ella, and Audrey, and we're a biracial family, and that's impacted me quite a bit. Educationally, I tried to hoop a little bit, but I landed at Liberty University. Knew I wanted to teach, did not make the team. God had his path. Funny story is now I'm connected with the coach that didn't take us as a walk-on. He's now a community partner
Wow.
where we are. And so I continually tease Coach Dutton about that. But I got my master's and doctorate through University of Lynchburg. So just surrounding myself, and I've been a principal at the elementary, middle, and high school level, all in the same city and urban demographic. Some of the kids that I'm principal now at the high school level, they've had me as a principal.
I'm going to mess with you real quick. So everybody, so you're aware this is going to be, look, we all got kids. So I know Danny's got kids. I got kids. So if you hear anything in the background, it's all good. Like, we are okay. Like, this is who we are. This is hot conversations. So he got his, I got mine. I got the dog downstairs. So this is literally, there's a prayer that everything goes well while we are doing what we're doing.
Welcome to my kitchen. Welcome to my kitchen from 7 to 12.
It is what it is.
And thank you. I think we have some bacon cooking over there on the stoves.
All good.
So yeah, some of the kids that I'm principal of now at the high school, I've been their principal since kindergarten.
Crazy.
Except for 1 year in 5th grade, they got away from me. I don't know if that's, fortunate or unfortunately, they got away from me for 1 year. So I'm passionate about kids and having impact. That's the word, impact. And believe in God to place me in positions of impact. And I believe that He's given me some strategies that have worked, some that have not worked, but impact. I want to have the biggest impact where I'm plugged in the city I'm plugged in. And if that means reaching beyond our city, that's exciting for me. So yeah, that's a little bit about me, where I'm coming from.
So what is that like for you? Because obviously you don't script that, right? Where it's like, hey, I am going to go with these kids all the way through, other than if you're in a combined school or if you are in a private school where maybe you're just running the whole ship, right? Like, what has that been like to know that you've impacted, honestly, kids in some ways almost their whole life? Like, their whole life, they know Dr. Dani Rule as their school leader. Like, what has that been like for you?
Yeah, I think initially going into it, I would like to say my maturity in my role has been, I think I went in with a savior complex. Like, I can
Mm.
do things. I'm going to be everybody's hero.
Yeah.
I could be your hero, baby. Who sang that song? But,
It's a good song. That's a good song.
so, but I think I went into it, but like, it's true as far as like their impact on me too. So it's been cool. There's a responsibility to it. I never set out, like you said, I didn't script it that way. I wasn't looking for that. I wanted to be great and impactful in the position I was in, and the way the Lord works, that's allowed me to go to the different levels. But where I see it, there's these kids now at the high school level, and I say middle school is the most important 3 years of a child's development, mental life,
For sure. For sure.
with their cliques, their friends, and everything. And so seeing some kids come across legal issues in high school, I still remember that kid. Like, that's just a kid.
Yeah.
He may look,
Yeah.
he may.
Yeah.
And so I have that perspective, and I think it's kept me grounded in my biases, my implicit biases, and it's kept me grounded in, that's a kid. That's a good kid. Don't talk about my kids. Don't talk about my high schoolers.
Right.
Like, those are good kids. Now, did they make a bad or poor decision? Yeah, but it's kept me grounded in, like, these are kids.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, so like that gives a chip on my shoulder. Don't come for my kids. I
Yeah.
got 1,200 of them right now. So don't come for them. Like, those are kids. And it also allows me to, I think it gives me a perspective too, is like, I can connect with them. They're still kids. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like my barriers, my difference in race, my difference in whatever it may be is like, I can still talk to this kid now. They're at a mature level. But some of them I remember from just when they were little, Like yesterday, I was at one of our varsity basketball games, and this young lady comes up to me. She's probably in her 20s, and she's like, "Do you remember me?" And I'm like, "All right, I see the face. Tell me."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You were my second grade teacher." I was like, "Oh
Wow.
my goodness!" And so, but that's just. And then my son, who's 11, said, "Dad, how old are you?" I'm like, "You're old. How old are you?" So, in a
So do
spirit, like,
you
that was just so cool. That was cool.
do you deal with, because my kids do this, where it's like everywhere you go, somebody's like, Mr. Mason, or like, hey, he says, and my kids are always like,
Yeah.
God, you know everybody.
My kids start counting because Lynchburg is small. Lynchburg
Yes.
is small. And so if they called me, it used to be if they called me Coach Rule, I knew him from coaching basketball when I first started teaching at the middle school level. And I knew if they called me Pastor Danny, I knew him somewhere from church,
Right.
because the church I've been involved with about 19 years. And then if they said, what was it, Mr. Rule or Dr. Rule, I was like, must be school somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm terrible with names. I feel bad, but it's a moment of laughter and conversation starter. Tell me your name. I forget.
Let me now ask you this then, because you talked about connecting with kids, right? And I think knowing you and knowing, the demographics of Lynchburg, how do you connect? And for those of you who don't know, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, too, because I was a principal there for 5 years. Obviously, Danny's been there much longer than that. Lynchburg is a predominantly, at least in our schools, predominantly African-American school system. Obviously, there's a little diversity there, but obviously Danny is a Caucasian principal. He works or ministers or serves in a church that is mostly African-American as well. So how do you feel like you connect? And I have had firsthand account, he connects extremely well with his families. We're going to talk about how you connect with staff, but he also connects very well with his kids. So how do you feel? What are some strategies someone could take to do that?
So I think one, so you're kind. It's not that I don't have it in my mind sometimes that that's a barrier, but it is staying who I am, not trying to be someone I'm not. And I saw that with my father in Columbus and the connections he had in Columbus with the community there. My wife is African American. And so I think just staying true to who I am and not trying to be someone I'm not. I'm not. I love and trying to relate to things that I can relate with someone of another race. And that's, whatever that might be, if we have the same interests. It all starts with relationships. And so I don't know how else to say that except for like, don't be someone I'm not. Like,
Yeah.
I am who I am, and kids are fun. Kids are funny. I know, sorry, my kids.
It's all
Kids
good.
are funny. They're 100% real. Maybe that's why I like working with kids so much. They're
Yes.
gonna tell me when my hair looks a mess. My wife would tell me, why did I get on this podcast without a fresh haircut? So when Nicole, if she ever watches this, sorry, babe. The kids will tell me when my outfit is eaten and when it's
It's not.
what did you put?
They have no filter. Like, no
And
filter.
no filter. In the church, I think consistency in relationships. So like those relationships I built with families when the kid was a kindergartner, like I said, small community. So it's this guy loves and cares about my child. He walked them home. He went in the neighborhood looking for him. In elementary school as a principal, I'd walk down to the corner with my music box, Bluetooth, big old speaker, and we called it the walking school bus. I'd gather everybody from this particular neighborhood that previously was overcrowding a bus, and we'd walk up to school. So they knew that. I don't know what they called me, but I'm sure some of the neighbors without kids are like, oh my goodness, there's the music at 7 a.m. Rules back in the neighborhood. And so just being like that simple strategy every morning in my elementary school that we did that was not taught in classes. It wasn't research driven. There was a need because this school bus had so many kids on it, and sometimes there were issues. Let me walk the quarter mile and walk them up the street with music that they'll tease me about. Welcome to school, let's do it. And I'd grab some of my colleagues and I'd meet parents, I'd see kids. If that meant the music is what clued them that I was there, So just meeting them, being yourself, not somebody you're not trying to be somebody I'm not. But I tease some of them, right, too, because I have 2 girls and 2 boys, and my wife and I, like, I'll tease the high school girls, like, your edges, girl,
There you go. Right.
And coming from me, they just like, they will crack up. So the kids are amazing. That's why we do it. The kids.
So that was gonna be my next thing. Like, so what makes you do that? Because not everybody does that, right? Like, so for example, you gave that example of the bus. The bus is overcrowded, and so when you went to do something because you found a need, some people may look at that and be like, I didn't need to get a new bus driver or need to get a new bus. That's not necessarily for me to do, and I still care about my kids, right? I still care about the kids who come in. I'm just not going to walk down the street and do that. And so everyone knows too that he took that music box to Dunbar, and I would come to Dunbar because my wife worked at his school as a school counselor. And every morning, if I came out to drop her off, he'd be sitting right outside with that box, greeting kids as they came in, talking to parents. So what makes you do that?
Steal a saying from Matt. I'm sure he had it from somebody else, but being solution minded, can I meet the need? If I can't, who can? And those simple things, like I do it at the high school now from 6:55 to 7:25, my music is playing. And so a lot of them had headphones on. They don't want my music, but I'll play after my Buckeyes won the national championship. It was all Ohio State marching band music.
Love it.
But like those small things connect. Like the kid that likes Ohio State, the kid that likes marching band, I'll play opera. I was doing it during the holiday season, and this family come in and said, can you play some Jewish songs? And I apologize if that's culturally not the correct way to say it, but they're like, y'all always are having these holiday Christmas songs on. Can you play? And so when they came in, I was like, oh, let me switch, like to welcome them, to see what I could find, or my EL population and those students. I'll look up now. Lord, forgive me if there's a whole lot of cursing in the Latino music that I find. I'm like, Latino music clean. Spotify, help me out. And sometimes they'll tease me. So it's just, music is a connector, man. Music is, and I probably did so without the realization of it at first. I remember one time when at the elementary school, for whatever, there was a phase of bomb threats across the city. I started with our school, and that kind of shook me a little bit. Not knowing, having dogs come through the school and all that. And so when the kids came back in off the bus, it happened to be a cold day. There was some music of, I Am a Champion or whatever it may have been.
Yeah.
And one of the teachers specifically was like, thanks for playing that music. It kind of settled my nerves. So
Yeah.
It's for
Yeah.
it's for everybody. Whitney Houston, man, I love some greatest hits by Whitney Houston and for the
Yeah.
high school or Michael Jackson, and so the kids will connect with me either teasingly or like, oh, I like what you were playing this morning. And so it's the quickest win you can have.
I'll tell anybody who's listening, like sometimes a weakness I'll have is I'll hear somebody say something really good and I feel like I have to do it. But correct me if I'm wrong, what I hear you say, especially when you're saying be yourself, like what is your thing, right? Like what is your like mine for me, and it's been this way all the time, like I'm going to tell you good morning, right? Like so I'm not gonna walk the hall and see somebody come through, student or adult, and not just be like, good morning, good morning, good morning. So now it's gotten to the point where if I walk through, and let's just say my mind is on something, like I am like deep in thought, if I don't say good morning, like I'll have kids be like, excuse me. And I'll be like, huh? And they'll be like, you didn't say good morning. It's like,
Yeah.
my bad, you're right, good morning. But like, what is your thing? Whatever that is, whether that's you want to dress up in a suit, whether that's you want to cook breakfast, like you're a good cook, whether that's a whatever, like find your thing, because I think it helps you like your job a little bit sometimes when it gets tough. It's like, well, this is my thing and it gives me joy to do that. And so keep doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. Absolutely. I think it's a great day to be a Spartan. I forget what the
Yeah.
saying was, but like, it's always a good
It's
day.
always a great day.
Always a great day. And then at the elementary, I would say, if nobody else has told you today that they love you, Principal Rule loves you very much, just the way you are. And that was kind of, I think it was Rita McPherson. I might be getting the name wrong on a TED talk saying like kids need to love, you need to tell them that they love you. And I was like, I need to tell them I love them. And then I took it to the middle school and I loved some Mr. Rogers in the documentary. And something he said was like, just the way you are. So a plug for Mr. Rogers documentary, not the Tom Hanks one, the real documentary. So then one day I got on the announcements at the high school and this young lady was walking out. She goes, you didn't tell us you loved us. And I was like, that was my
Wow.
cue. Like, I'm going to say that
Yep.
every time. If nobody else told you they love you today, Principal Rule loves you very much, just the way you are. But it's interesting. I mean, find what your thing is. And I would say, too, listen to other people, right? Like solution-minded. Matt, the first person I heard that from was Matt. And that's something I always take in the meetings. Like, let's be solution-minded. It's a good day to have a great day. Like, there's different things that you can take from others. And one of my professors used to tell me a good teacher's a good thief. Well, a good principal's a good thief too. Like, it doesn't mean you have to dress up in the weird, like you said, like you don't have to do things out of what you're able to do, but maybe you can find somebody who can bring that element to and empower others around you. They can bring a certain element that, like, well, that's not me, restorative circles, and pulling that out of kids. Right now, in the position I'm in a high school with 1,200 kids, maybe I can't always have the time for that, but I can find those that are really good and empower them. Hey, I need you to do this because I've seen that in you and seen that strength. And so calling that strength out of some of your colleagues may be the best way to incorporate some of those elements that you're like, I like that, but it's not me. But who can it be? Who can it be? So ask the next question, right?
So again, you segue really good. So that's going to be my next thing. We talked a lot about your leadership with kids, but as I was driving home, because I had dropped off my family this morning and was getting here for the interview, one of the things I thought of was just what is, yes, I lead kids, but in my mind, I was like, in reality, I impact kids, but I'm leading and I'm serving my, staff, right? Because in reality, as much as I want to say like I'm around the kids all day, in reality, I'm not to the extent I used to be when I was a teacher, like where I would have somebody for 90 minutes. I might spend, in reality, on average, maybe 3 minutes with a kid. If I think about the whole aggregate of the day, I might say, hey, and there might be a particular student that I'm spending 20 minutes with, right, because something happened. But in reality, I'm not spending 90 minutes, but my staff are in many cases. And so talk a little bit about how you encourage, support your staff. And I know for me personally, I'm growing as an instructional leader. I'm making sure I'm in the classroom, seeing what's going on so I can speak to whether that's improvement or just to tell somebody, hey, man, you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, and there is that fine line when I was looking at the principal aspect. I think one thing that kind of like that is almost the worry almost is like, how can I do this for kids, but taking myself in this position, the question I'll say is, will it take me further away from kids and impact? And if it does, how can I maximize those times? So real quick with the time with, like, how can I maximize my time and be around kids and show them I care and love them and be visible to them? That, to me, I find that in lunchtime. I'm not in supervision.
Yeah.
I am, but it's my time to connect with students. And so mindset, how you look at it, could change your actions in it. So if that's my time to connect with students and less supervision, they know I'm there, whether I'm sitting at the corner talking to a staff member or sitting at the door, making sure no one leaves the door that they're not supposed to leave. That's the same thing as walking around. Not the same, but I can accomplish the same goal of supervising by going and saying, "Hey, how are you doing? Like, remind me your name. I'm sorry, I forget it."
Right.
Right now, no cell phones. Sit down, play Uno with a few kids because we bought a bunch of card games at lunchtime. So maximizing the small amounts of times that you do have, I think is really important, and identifying those times to connect with kids and changing your mindset from supervision to connection. And then, but like supporting staff, I think I've done it. I would say I'm still learning to do it where I'm at because it's 3 times the size of the last school I was in, or twice the size, 2 to 3 times the size of the last school. So the staff is bigger. So starting with my elementary school, like we could connect. I could be in every staff room every day, put a positive post-it note, tell them they're doing great. Jumping into middle school, and we did something where I stole it from my predecessor, Dr. Brown, who he had kind of done like this staff shout out thing. So we did something like that, like where colleagues shout out each other. And I send out the newsletter every week that includes that straight from colleagues shouting out each other. And we do that at the high school I'm at now, is where we get to celebrate one another. Like, so Thursday, at the beginning of the third quarter, I said, "Hey, share something great about a colleague. Let's spotlight a colleague," because they see each other a lot too. So I'm learning still how to bring a staff of over 100 together, and sometimes that's just through connection. There's a book called Fish that one of my early mentors, Miss Therese Haley, she was my first principal, the one that hired me, and she had us read as part of leadership this book called Fish that really encourages you to connect through playing or connecting with those that you work with. So at the high school, we did a gingerbread house making contest and connecting, because I think authentic connections, will beat out false praises or like enough or kind of word of mouth praises. Trying to be visible. I have a little chart in my wall in my office that has it by week. If I just walk through the classroom.
Yeah.
And man, I look at that, that's such a motivating and shaming chart at the same time, because I'm like, man, these last 2 weeks, I have not been in classroom, just walking through. And so holding myself accountable to be visible to staff members, I think makes an impact on staff, giving them voice, and also just communicating when I don't give them voice. Because sometimes there's decisions that I have to make that, hey, this is one of my mentors, most recent mentors, Dr. Edwards, had this D1 all the way to D5, and a D1 is just, the decision is mine. This is what it is. But communicating it, whether or not I choose to communicate the why, typically I do, because sometimes I think making a decision without telling them the why behind the decision can create some salty staff members. And my intent is always for the kids. And as I build relationships with the staff I'm with now, I hope and pray they see that, even if our opinions differ. D2 is where I want your voice, whether that's through surveys, leadership meetings, Q&A at the end of a staff meeting. I'm going to make the final, but I try to lead with that. Hey, I want your opinion, but I'm going to make the decision. And so that's why we're here. It's not a consensus decision. And so just being upfront with what kind of decision it is, I think helps. And that's from, again, I think a brilliant idea from one of my mentors.
So maybe one of the last questions before we got some fun ones that we're going to ask in a minute, but how do you deal with that intersection? I think we both know as principals, like, you have your vision, right, in your mind of what you want the school to be. You're trying to now collaborate with staff. You're trying to collaborate with the community, right? And then you also kind of, if you use the term above you, you have mandates or things that are coming to you from above you, whether that's superintendent or different departments. And then they have people above them that, whether that's budget constraints or all that, those things, those impact you and the vision you want to see happen while you're trying to collaborate. And you're also being told what you can and can't do. Like, how do you, in other words, in some ways, stay healthy with that, right? Because I know there have been times where it frustrates me to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Because like, why do I want to keep fighting this battle that's always going to be there in some cases? And I get over it, right? But how do you do that? What's a healthy way of dealing with that?
I think it goes with understanding first my why. And as cliche as that is, why am I in this? I'm in this for kids, right? I'm in this to impact kids and to set them up for success is always my goal. So being grounded on that, being grounded in, that's why I say, and I don't want to overstate it, but my faith leads me. So if I believe I'm supposed to be somewhere, and then these budget cuts, whether that's from CARES funding leaving COVID years, whether that's from economic crisis that is going to be cutting, or your local city councilor not funding or decreasing funding or keeping level funding when you expect this. I would say there's a couple of things. Like, one, I have this T-chart in my office.
Good.
That's a little sticky note that says what I can control, what I can't control. And so my healthy mental approach is a budget cut. I can't control that. That's on that side. I can control how I advocate, whether that's speaking to the city council, school board, or those above me. I can't control that. So what does that look like? So stop focusing on what you cannot control, because it's going to stress you out and drain you, and you cannot provide a solution for it. But I can control my advocacy for that child, that teacher, that raise, that decision. I can control respectfully how I advocate for it. And sometimes I tell people I go to bed at night resting on the fact that, like, I was a voice. Can't control it, so I'm not going to let it stress me. I know I'm supposed, and so above all that is, I know I'm supposed to be here. I believe wholeheartedly that I'm supposed to be in this position. Now, I believe in prayer, right? What's my strategy to attack it, to support my teachers, my staff, my students? And maybe for the voiceless, how can I give them a voice?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean it always goes my way, but if I know I'm getting cut positions, I also have to be careful, and I'll challenge the leaders out there. Be careful who you vent with, because we all say, oh, we can vent, but fine, it's okay to vent. And it is. But I remember one time when I was venting to my assistant principals at the middle school level in a meeting because I was frustrated by something. And then I was like, dang, that wasn't cool. Like, I want them to want to be a principal.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
roughly about the next time I went back and I said, I apologize. That wasn't professional of me to share that with you. Now, that's where I think I grew in my relationship with Matt, is because I could talk to him, but I also knew it was somebody that was a brother that was positive minded, solution minded, that would hear it. And it was someone I trusted to call me out too, of like, it is what it is. Let's get back to the side we can't control. Or, maybe if we didn't use that exact language, those are the people I could. Like, you got to find those almost parallels of people dealing with the same thing. That's why I love the podcast right now, because they can give you ideas, they can give you solution-minded, but they can get you back on the sides that you can have impact on and modes you can control. That makes sense.
No, it does. And I totally agree with you, because there have been times where, again, this is our conversations, right? Like, especially my last couple of years, I think in the division I was in, like, it was tough. And it was very helpful to have individuals like Dani who can listen to what you're saying and encourage you. But like you said, also get you to a point too where it's like, okay, for lack of a better term, you got to get up, right? Like, I got you. You're frustrated. You're angry. And now it's time to go ahead and get up. I was funny. I'm in Job right now, the book of Job. And it's funny to hear Job speaking to his friends, right? Like, they're coming to him and they're like, hey, man, you obviously did something wrong. And then Job is coming back like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm trying to figure out what I did. But just the fact that there are friends that he had, even in his lowest time, who came to seek him out, right? Like, even if we want to talk about whether they agreed, there were only 3 individuals who actually came to see, like, where is Job and how is he doing? And I know, like, personally for me, like, I have those, like, whether that's Danny, whether that's, we talked a little bit about Dr. Brown, who I'm going to be interviewing as well. Like, just individuals who, you can call up pretty much anytime. I think we have a Marco Polo that we chat. It's been tough recently, but pretty much almost every morning we're getting on, and whether that is praying for each other, whether that's just talking to see how each other are doing, like, we're doing that, and it is good to be able to let your hair down, for lack of a better term, with something. I said that was the last question, but this is the last one, because when you and I were talking earlier, or maybe like a week or so ago, you brought up something I thought was really good about the principalship, right? And how you really don't see kids. And then when you said it, I thought about this. You never hear anybody be like, man, I want to be a principal when I grow up, right? And you brought up something, though, to me that was really good. I don't know if I advertise the principalship in a way that a kid would want to be a principal, right? Like, so I don't know if you want to go into a little bit of that, but I know that you're passionate about that.
Yeah. And I'm reading this book, Kingdom Men Rising by Tony Evans, and just this morning, so I got to read you a part that goes with the last question. It says, okay, adversity and challenges have a way, if you let them, of sharpening your skills, strengthening your will, and focusing your approach to your goals and dreams. So I thought that fits in real well. Mark that in the book, of like adversity as a way of focusing and challenging you and sharpening your skills if you let them. So it's definitely a choice on those people. But yeah, and actually I heard that from, man, I can't wait to interview Dr. Brown. But I heard that from Dr. Brown. Like, we go to career fairs, and how often we say, do you want to be a principal? Do you want to be a principal? Do you want to be a principal? We don't. But man, look at this. Dr. Walker told me, Dr. John Walker, one of my professors of my master's ed and even the doctoral ed program, had said, when you're a teacher, you get to impact 25 kids, or if you're secondary, 100 kids, and then you pass them on. But if you're a principal and those families stay in your elementary school, you have an impact for 6 years on 300, 500 kids, and you move them on. And then in the middle school, you have an impact on that many kids, and you move them on in those families. And so being consistent, being you, but like, I think in the day of social media and the day of where every parent, every student, every community member is their own newscaster because of the social media platform that they have, we also got to do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like principal_rule, like go follow, because we get to brag on life outside of principal. I get to be a dad, a husband. I'm a normal person, but in the school, I get to brag on my kids. So we have to advertise and sell it. And we are our own newscaster. Our newscasters, just like everybody else. And if I'm going home and talking poorly about whether that's being a teacher, whether it's being a principal, like, why would anybody want to do that?
Great.
It's a mindset. And I'm not selling something that's false. Every job has its challenges. But I can focus on those things or the amazing things that make it great. So,
yeah.
Choice.
All right. So then we'll end it off. We're getting there. So I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions that are just you. This is Dani Rule. Obviously, he did talk a little bit about Ohio State. So by the time this airs, they would have been the champions for a couple of weeks now. So I know he was excited about that. I almost messed with him with the Detroit Lions, because then was hoping that they were going to go. I told my wife, I said, oh, Daddy's going to be hyped. If they keep on winning and Ohio State wins, we will be able to tell him nothing. So I think that might have been the Lord humbling him, just to be like, I'm going to let Ohio win. I'm going to get Detroit down a little bit, so he'd be all right. What is your favorite, or what has been the most impactful book that you feel like has impacted you the most as an educator?
As an educator, oh, that's good. Relentless, Amish Brewer. That one comes to mind first.
Okay. So what about that book?
That's someone doing what we're doing and showing his energy, passion, positivity. It's practical. It tells you strategies. Again, like we talked about before, it's him. I'm not a skateboarder.
Yeah.
But what drives his decision making I want to have that same mindset. His belief in kids, I want to have that same mind. So it's motivating, it's challenging, it's real. It's not somebody that's not done it telling us how to do it. It's somebody that's in it and going through the trenches with us. So love some Hummer. And then he's a real person, man. During COVID, we did a book study on it, and he jumped in a Zoom. And then even when I started my social media, like promotions of being a principal and stuff, he was the first one that said, like, I took his example, and then he was like, bro, your hashtag brings up some stuff that's not good. Check your hashtags. So thank you, Amish Brewer, for your motivation.
All right. So the next question is, if you could sit down with 5 dinner guests, dead or alive, who would you and why? Like, you sit down, you could talk. And I know for me, when I say sit down, like, I'm not talking, I'm just listening to whoever these 5 are.
Yeah, that's a challenging question. Shoot. I'm blessed to say my father, man. My dad is awesome. I'm blessed to be in the amazing leadership of my pastor, Bishop Younger. Those two in my local sphere.
Yeah.
Those two. Listen, this is when my daughter
I
would get
told you,
ice from the
this
ice
is hot.
machine. Stop it right now. But people that man, I don't know how that would happen. There's an author I really like, Philip Yancey.
Okay. Yep.
Is a great
Yep.
an author I really like. Another author, Andre Nowen. I would say, let's see, that's 4.
That's 4. Yep. That's 4.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say President Obama. I'm gonna go ahead and say President Obama.
Okay.
And that's someone that man. Yeah. So those would be my 5 that come to mind first.
Yeah, I like that. That's a really good list. The last question is going to be, who else would you want to see on this podcast? But you got to help us get them. If there was somebody who would be your person?
Amish Brewer. I mean, that would be somebody that is a dynamic educator. Yes, if I could help get it. I also think it's an interesting podcast for people outside of education and their views on education and their involvement and whatnot. So I would have to put Bishop S.Y. Younger's name out there.
Like that, yep. You know, somebody else who I want to get, just because I believe her book on forgiveness, I think would be something really big. And I've been thinking about her a lot recently. It's Elder Westgate. Like, I feel just feel like that is something. Maybe I'm dealing with unforgiveness. Maybe I think I need that.
You got a good one too. The Wives of Principals.
There you go. So that's going to be an episode.
Mrs. Rule.
Yeah.
And you might have to prep me up to listen to her responses. So
it's all right. We could do one where it's my wife too, your wife, and we can just go through it and just let them talk. We'll probably just kind of sit there with our hands on, just let them chat. Because he can't say anything back. It just got to be like, yes, ma'am. Yep. Oh, all right. So cool, man. Tell us last thing before we leave. I know you got some work that you're doing that you're proud of. I know you're doing some consulting, and then you're trying to push now into your own. So tell us a little bit about that and where they can find you at.
Yeah, impact. That's a word that just driven by impact. How can I do that in the biggest ways? I've been blessed to have an opportunity to do a little bit of educational consulting in Arizona recently. And so my vision goal is always to have my own. And so noexcuseseducation.com, noexcuseseducation.com. And so be looking for that website, but that's whether it's leadership, I'm passionate about helping lead others, mentor others, and learn from others. That's not just a one way. It's a two-way conversation. So noexcuseseducation.com is an opportunity I have to consult and support other educators or leaders in education, although it's not really tied just to education, but that's where my passion is. So, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, look, Dr. Rule, appreciate you doing the pod with us. For everybody, remember that in Talk Conversations, we're trying to be honest, open, and transparent. That's actually a term I got from Dr. Rule, who actually got it from another individual. But that's the goal. We want to encourage people in our profession to continue to be in our profession and continue to impact other people and impact kids. That seems to be the key word for the day, is impact. So we love you. We appreciate you. And we hope you have an absolutely amazing day. See you soon.